Geraldo, who was Chico Xavier?
Oh, after so many years of knowing him, thinking about him, and understanding his works, I'm nowadays certain that he was a higher spirit living amongst us. And his works, his life, everything he represents is very, very important for all of us on earth.
And who was he? I mean, we know that he was a evolved spirit, but who was he in human terms? I mean, he was what? I mean, he was a spiritist. He was...
Yeah, he was a very humble human being, very simple one, simple matters, and he was a very joyful person. He loved life. He loved to make friends. He loved to talk with friends and to get to know each other and make new friends. And he was a very special person and a very humane one, very close to us. And I think to myself that he was so humble that he could make us feel like we are in a family with him.
Why was he an important figure in humanity, but also within Spiritism?
Because of his works. He started working with the Spiritism when he was only 17 years old. He starts to psychograph messages from the higher spirits, and he would do this for 75 years, non-stop. And he would do all kinds of works on charity also. He was always preoccupied with the ones that had nothing, like the poverty, or the ones that are suffering, the ones that had lost relatives or loved ones to another life. So he was always thinking about doing something to help people out, to give them strength and courage. And he would do that for 75 years non-stop. And from his psychographic material, up to date, we have 507 books published in Portuguese. That's the largest work in Portuguese language at this date in the world. And I have researched before also in other languages. We have only two writers, one in Russia and one in the Arabic Republic, the Arabic Kingdom, that wrote more books than Chico Xavier. But the Arabic one was published, I think 1,000 books, but all in poems, all the same material. And the other one in Russia also published like 700 books in one subject. But Chico Xavier would publish all those 507 books in all kinds of writings, novels and letters, chronicles, and scientific material, poems, all kinds of expressions of the literature.
Tell us a little bit about your personal experience in seeing Chico and these hundreds and hundreds of people that would line up around the block just to even get a hello from Chico. What was that like? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Sometimes I would feel like I was, off. I mean, I was in a strange place because I would see this happening. My family, my mother's side of my family, the Machado family, was a very close friend of Chico Xavier because they were all from the same hometown of Pedro Leopoldo, Minas Gerais, Brazil. My grandmother was Chico's people at the school since kindergarten, so they're very close. They were very close, and all my family had a relation very close to Chico. And since I was a little boy, I used to hear lots of things about Chico, his mediumship, the way how good at the heart he was to helping them in all kinds of troubles, all kinds of sufferings. And I was, eager to know him. When I was 19 years old in 1981, I got to know him in São Paulo, and I started working with him also to publish his books. And after that, in 1984, I got to marry Eliana, and her brother lived with Chico Xavier in Uberaba. He was the one responsible for the organizations of his books. So I started to stay at his home in Uberaba, and I started to get a very close relationship as a family member with Chico. And it was very strange because we would sit down at the dinner table and talk about all kinds of subjects and matters all night long, even until 5 a.m. because Chico was a night person, He was very aware during the night. He would go to bed only 5 a.m. and just sleep for 1 hour because 6 a.m. he was up again. And it was a strange feeling because after that, at the public meetings, he had at that time 3 public meetings, one Friday night at 8 p.m., the other one Saturday for 2 p.m. With the ones in need, and the third one Saturday night at 8 p.m. And I would see those hundreds of people, like 600 or 700 of persons, looking forward just to have a kiss from him or a hug from him. And I would think to myself, oh my goodness, what do I have to get this chance by God to get to know this man so close. So it was kind of a responsibility that was heavy on my shoulders, So I made a commitment to myself to honor this man, to honor his life and to honor his works, as so I can do it until this day, and I'm going to do this all my life.
I want to touch on, I know that you started a museum. We'll go there in a second, but I wanted to, just for those who are watching this in the English language, because I know you have a plethora of things, stories in the Portuguese language, yeah. But for us, who our primary language is English, who would love to know more about Chico Xavier, I just wanted to extract some more stories, your experiences with him. I'm sure you have a lot of stories. Is there a story that's closest to your heart or that has made a huge impact on your life? I'm sure you have many because Chico was an impactful human being, soul. But is there one that you comes to your mind now that can be inspiring for somebody else, or just something that really touches your heart?
Yeah, the one time I remember Chico Xavier was a person that had all kinds of mediumship, although the most known of them is the psychographic and the mediumship that was of writing, psychic writing, that was transformed in one of his 507 books, but he had all kinds of mediumship. He would see the spirits. He would hear the spirits. He would also receive the spirits through the talk, through the sound. And also he had psychometric mediumship. He would touch things, objects, and he could tell us about the story around those objects. And also he had the mediumship of foresee things in the future. So, and one time I was talking to him, maybe late 80s, and he would tell me that at that time he could not differentiate who was incarnate here on earth from the ones that was already discarnate. And I was thinking about that to myself. Oh, that's impossible, because of course there is a difference, you know. We have more physical body. How can he not differentiate this? And I didn't understand what he was talking about. And one afternoon I was there at his home. We were just finishing lunch, and suddenly arrived from Goiânia two ladies, a mother and her daughter, and they were crying quietly. And I didn't know them. Sorry, I didn't know them, but Chico Xavier obviously was very close friends of them. So she embraced the older one, the mother, told us by name, told us her name, and then he embraced the other one, the daughter, and then he made a third movement to embrace someone in the air. Of course, we are not seeing anyone, but he was embracing literally the air. And then he told the name of the one he was embracing. And as he told the name, the other two just cried out loud, you know. And he was surprised by the reaction of them, and asked, "Why are you crying?" And the youngest one told Chico, "But you told the name of my grandmother." And he told her, "Of course I told her. She came with you. She came along with you." And the woman told Chico, "But she is dead. She passed away 30 days ago." And Chico was surprised. That's the thing that I was most surprised. So I understood him, because he was seeing her, and for him, she was still on flesh. I mean, she was still here on earth, but she had passed away 30 days ago. And then he was surprised also by this revelation. And then I understood what he was talking about. For him, the humanity is one whole thing. There is no separation between incarnates and discarnates. And this was a turning point for me, because I could understand better what Spiritism is all about.
Can you share a story, something that he told you, maybe not about your personal life, because we don't want to get into that because it's private, but something else that he told you, like, Geraldo, to be a good person, you should do this and that. Something that was inspirational that has always stayed with you. Something that, a phrase he said or a hug he gave you that always stayed with you because it was very meaningful for you.
Well, that's a difficult question to ask, because I would say that everything was so special. And as the day passes, it turns out to be more special, because you experience life. And one thing is very clear for me now. At that time, maybe I didn't understand, because he would talk about things on the future that at that time didn't happen. So it was a big question for me. And Chico Xavier had this powerful mediumship to foresee the future. And he predicted my father's Alzheimer's disease in 16 years before it happened, as he predicted my mother's also Alzheimer's disease. And he predicted facts of my life, my personal life, that at that time I didn't understand, that I would understand like 15 years later. He predicted facts that I would experience in my professional life, and also facts that I experience today in the Spiritist movement. At that time, I was in my 20s, early 20s, and he would tell me that I would do lectures and speeches about Spiritism, not only in Brazil, in other Brazilian capitals, in other states, but also in other countries, that I would speak in other languages about Spiritism. And at that time, I was so shy that I couldn't even think about it. I would think to myself, oh, Chico, that's impossible, because I'm a shy guy. I don't have this kind of, gift. I would not speak in public. And he would tell me, yes, you will. And you remember me at that time. So the things that he predicted also in politics, in economics, international relations between the nations, that at that time didn't make sense, and nowadays totally makes sense. So he was not a normal human being from this world, that's for sure. He is something, he is some higher being from another world that came to Earth to teach us how to be more human, how to love each other, how to be more patient, how to respect the differences between us, how respect one another in a way Jesus himself taught us 2,000 years ago.
Wow. What other stories can you share about Chico with us?
Okay. One of my first stories that I heard of from my family, my mother's side family, my great aunt, Adelia. She was born in April 21st of 1900. And in 1941, she lost her youngest boy, William. He was only 18 years old. And he had gangrene, is that right? On his legs. And at that time, they didn't have any kind of medicine to combat the gangrene, and he suffered a lot. And after that, Chico Xavier, after his death, Chico Xavier received lots of letters from him to his mother, my grand aunt Adelia, a total of 33 letters that consoled, that gave her strength, gave her courage to, continue living. And she was a very intelligent woman. She would speak fluent French without being able to study it. Just as Chico told me, remembering another life. And then one time I was getting to organize a book of those 33 messages of William to her mother, his mother, my grand aunt Adília. The book is called Bastão de Arrimo. That was the first book of Chico Xavier I published in 1984. And then I was talking to Chico about the organization of the book and everything else. And then we start talking about the past. What would have happened in the past to William and my grand aunt Adília to suffer so much in this life, and so Chico told me about the other life in France, and he told me that she was a lady in the higher society of the court, the French court, and she was at that time married to a baron in France, and she would fall in love with a man that was William at that time, and they plot to get her husband killed by venom, right? Poison, yeah. A poison that the French police at that time didn't discover, right? And he was, slowly dying. Then he died. Nobody knew that was an assassination plot. And then they got married and lived together. So in this new life, William, her lover, came through her as a son, so they would surpass the sensual relationship, and she would see him die very slowly with the gangrene and suffer this death day by day. And that was a kind of expiation from the wrongdoing on the past.
Tell us about your first encounter with Chico Xavier.
As I told you, I was a little boy and a teenager, and I would listen to many stories about Chico because my mother's family was all Spiritists, and from the same city, hometown of Chico Xavier, Pedro Leopoldo, where he was born. So I was very, grateful for him. And since I was 14 years old, I would write him some letters, very small ones. And I would thought to myself that this man was obviously so busy that I would not like him to take any action to respond me. So I just signed those letters as a friend. I would not put my name, and I would not put my address, so he could return the letter to me. But I enjoyed sending him those letters, and I forgot that. I mean, between I was 14 years old until the 18 years old, so 4 years, small letters, nothing special. And then one day, when I was in Belo Horizonte in 1981, my grand aunt Nair, who lived in São Paulo, phoned me and told me, Geraldine, come to São Paulo because Chico is coming here. He's going to launch 2 new books, and I'll be beside him working on this, and I would put you beside me so you can work with me, and then after that get to know Chico. I know you want to know him personally. So I would go to São Paulo at once, and in the 14th of October 1981 I was there at the Centro Espírita União in São Paulo. And at that night the reunion started at 8 p.m. sharply and went all the way until 7:30 a.m. So 11 hours and 30 minutes. And Chico was so happy receiving the people and talking to people and autographing the book that was, he was two books that he was launching this night. And certainly mostly, I think passed through me like 10,000 people, because they would come to me and my grand aunt Nair. We would open the book and pass to Chico, right? And after 11 hours and 30 minutes, so the queue was small, and my grand aunt Nair called me, now it's your turn to hug Chico and get to know Chico, because you have already worked hard for that. And then she would introduce me to him, and she would say, Chico, this is, and Chico, Geraldinho, I was waiting for you. And I was, what? How can he know my name? I don't know this bit. And he would tell me, there is two things I don't understand about you. And I was freezed, I was petrified. What is he is telling me? And there is two things I don't know about you. I don't understand about you. You write me so nice letters that I like them so much, because they give me so much. I was so happy to receive them, but I never understood why you never signed them. The first thing. And the second one, why you never put your address so I could write you back. And I was so emotional at that time that I just cried. I didn't say a word. And then he took lots of roses and gave me at that time and told me, oh, Geraldinho, come to Uberaba to see our work there. I would be very happy if you go there and see our work. And then 15 days later, I was there in Uberaba.
Thank you, Geraldo.
Thank you so much.